when I was 19 years old, I was in the car with my mom, and I looked at her and said, "Mom, I know what I'm going to do next. I am going to get enlightened." And so she said, "Okay, honey, sounds good." And at that point, my search started. My conscious and very deliberate and very intense search for enlightenment begun. It took the form of retreats, extended meditation, self inquiry, and prioritizing that as the absolute number one goal. And I would text my friends even in college, like, "Hey, do you think we can get enlightened, like fully, by the time college is over?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, man, if anyone can do it, it's you. You got this." And so I tried. And did I get enlightened? No, absolutely not. In fact, my worst fear, which I didn't know what it was at the time, but in hindsight I realize, my worst fear was that nothing was going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. Nothing happened. But it was the best nothing that could have happened, because that is the actual process of spiritual development, or of awakening, you could say, which is it's flipped. It's backwards than how you would think about it. Because what it turns out was that the whole project I had towards chasing enlightenment, seeking self-inquiry, gaining a certain state of consciousness, that whole chase was actually a way to distract myself and avoid my life as a human. Which is weird also, considering that I had a great life by pretty much every standard. I had a fantastic life. And so why was I avoiding it? There's just seems to be innate, maybe it's in our culture, there's this drive that we're all imbued with to look away or pull back from experience. Maybe it's due to painful experiences we have in childhood, but to somehow pull away from experience so that we're not fully presently seeing life as it is. And the main tool that we use to do this is a repetitive, incessant, unconscious set of thinking and feeling. So this enlightenment chase was one of the last ditch attempts of my ego to preserve itself, or this system of thinking and feeling to keep itself alive through avoiding life. And its greatest fear was that it was going to fail, that nothing was going to happen, that I was going to have to face life, whatever it is, because you don't really know, you don't get to know what exactly it is, naked, facing it as it is, with no filter and no knowing, no ascension, the messiness of human life. So when you're watching this video, I would like for you, if you are chasing enlightenment or you are interested in this stuff, to see why you're interested in it. Because when we're avoiding something, we don't want to see that we're avoiding it. I certainly didn't want to see, and I didn't even know. So the avoidance was working fine. But when I was authentically looking, and that's the blessing that I had, I saw the two assumptions, the two things that I wanted to get out of this. The first one was a clear purpose. I was hoping that when I somehow crossed the threshold to enlightenment, that I would suddenly know every move to make in life, that I would have like a Google Maps navigation system, which is kind of funny to think about, like that I would know exactly the path and it would say left and right and up and down and you're going to arrive in 32 minutes. But I never got that. And then the other thing that I wanted was complete confidence to be open and vulnerable without any risk of painful emotion. There was just this avoidance of painful emotion that I think we all have buried deep down. And it was through clearly seeing that I was never going to get those two things, no matter how much I practiced, that this urge to seek finally was like died, like fell into the lava. Like in the scene in in Terminator when the guy's in the lava, he's like, no. Or I think he like puts a thumbs up when he's in the lava. I didn't put a thumbs up. This drive was holding on with everything it had to not die. And it was just slowly forced into the grave. This is a destructive process if you're on it. The process of seeing more clearly. The process of recognizing how you've identified yourself to be a separate individual, or the mechanisms through which you feel yourself as an estranged person. And these avoidances and chases are one of the primary ways we do that. And they don't get dissolved through like a curriculum, like you go to school and it's like, yes, we're going to dissolve this one and then this one and then this one. They're so deeply embedded into the psyche that they just unravel through life. Life has a way of unraveling them within you in sometimes very painful and uncomfortable ways. And that's what happened. So basically this video is for two purposes. One, to help you relate to this, maybe if you're on that path, to see what happened over here and say, oh, I feel validated now. And the second one is if you're chasing or you're self-inquiring yourself to death, or you can't get it, you don't know what it is, you don't know the enlightenment answers, you're disoriented, is that you can relax. Like, it's okay not to know. In fact, not knowing is where you end up. The last place I wanted to end up, and I think the last place the ego or the drives we have inside of us to maintain the illusion of self-separation, the last thing they want is for nothing to happen and to not know anything. And that's exactly where I was forced into by this process. And then this sustained not knowing, once you're put into that place so much and the drive to escape and to chase gets beaten down by subsequent failures so much and is slowly subtracted, the sustained not knowing ends up becoming a type of deep knowing that you can't describe, I couldn't describe even if I tried. I also noticed that my seeking phase, the deliberate seeking for enlightenment phase, didn't happen until there was already enough consciousness and there was already a first awakening, so to speak. Awakening being, I recognized in my own thoughts the fallacy of self, which I think is the first step for many people. It's like when you see that the way thought references things always implies a separate individual that you are, that the thoughts are thinking on behalf of. And then to see that that implication is false, and then all the subsequent thoughts that come after it are no longer believable. So that was the first shift that happened. And then the seeking started after that, because the thought system, it's almost like it can sense that it's got a time limit on it now, that the belief in self-separation is starting to fade away on a deeper level. And then if this process is happening for you and you're resonating with what I'm saying, maybe you'll also resonate with the fact that after this happens, the self-defense of the ego, it gets cranked up in a way, because now you're not dealing with the thought illusions as much, because you've seen, like, a thought about yourself is clearly seen to be not true. Whatever you are that's seeing that you don't necessarily know what it is. We could call that thing consciousness, but even that's makes you feel like you know what it is. But whatever it is that you are seeing, that the thoughts are false, it switches the sense of self. What's remaining of your sense of self is the deeper emotional and physical tensions that create a sense of self. And those are often very uncomfortable and painful to let go of. And they just start unraveling on their own. So that process can be really disorienting and painful. And it's it definitely threw me for a loop, and I needed to work with teachers on it. If you're dealing with that part, by the way, I'm happy to help you. Just fill out the quiz in the description. I'll send you some resources, or DM me on Twitter. I check all my DMs. But let me know if you have any questions. Drop a comment if this resonated with you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.